listeners. We are back again with the famous program Eurasian Perspective, and today we have our honorable guest, Dr. Zafar Nawaz Jaspal, who's an expert of international relations, and currently he is the director of School of Politics and International Relations in Quaid-i-Azam University in Islamabad. So thank you very much, sir. We are very glad to have you with us today in this program. So, sir, before we go and talk about international relations of Pakistan and other things, since this is an FM channel and most of the audiences consist of the young people, so kindly tell us the scope of international relations as a subject for the young generation.
I think that the international relations or international politics, now we use it, its scope is very vast, and especially youngsters who are doing the degree programs in this discipline, they have a chances to come, or they have opportunity to join the media, electronic as well as print media. They have a, you can say, opportunity to be analysts. They have opportunity to work with the multinational organizations, and they have opportunity to work with the number of the other non-governmental organizations. And besides that, for example, my department is contributing enough, or you can say since the 1973, it has contributed a lot in the civil services of Pakistan. So there are many areas, if you do the degree well, provided you have you study the international relations properly and in the classes.
Sir, again, going back to the international relations subject, do you think that it is relevant now to whatever is happening in the geopolitical scenario? Because most of the people who study international relations, I found them that they are indecisive that what kind of jobs are awaiting for them within the country and outside the country.
No, there are two ways. When you look about the relevance of the international relations with the geopolitics, yes, it is very much relevant. Without the understanding of international relations or theories of international relations, you cannot understand what are the dynamics or what are the trends in the global geopolitics or regional geopolitics. You cannot even elaborate what it means. But on the other side, when you look about the jobs, of course, there is a job market. And naturally, if you go for a science, you start it in a narrow discipline, you start for inventions. But if you are in the social sciences like the international relations discipline, you have a different league, you are in a different league. So, but the job market is very much open. I haven't seen my students, especially who are performing well in the class. This is the question. If you are having a GPA lesser than 2 or 2.5, and then you think that you will get a job like the GPA, the student having a GPA of 4 plus, of course not. So, generally, the students who are doing the international relations, and that's what you see in Islamabad, for example. There was time that only Quaid-i-Azam University had an international relations department, but now Barrier University, Yale University, NURST, NAMAL, and a few private universities.
Yes, almost
like
every
university is now having an international relations department, and that testifies what I said, that there is a big scope and there is a big market for the student of international relations.
Sir, coming back to your subject and your specialty, as we know that you are also an international expert, and your comments and your analysis are worldwide accepted, and all the international media, they look towards you whenever they have to ask something about Pakistan. So let's first talk about the regional connectivity things. So how do you see the regional Pakistan's regional connectivity with the Central Asian region with respect to CPEC and other things?
I think that this regional connectivity, which you are saying, it's the buzzword or the key for a state's or the region's prosperity. Regional connectivity has been demonstrated in the last second half in the shape of the EU or European Union. After that, now we have seen that this regional connectivity is now taking, or is becoming more attractive in our region as well. But when we look about the regional connectivity, it has a Pakistan, in case of Pakistan, it has historical as well as current, you can say, explanation. Historically, Pakistan was a pivot, and still today it is a pivot. Central Asia is viewed as a backyard of South Asia, or Central Asia. South Asia is a market today. So in this regional connectivity, when we look about the Central Asia, but within the Central Asia, we have to also link the western part of the China as well. So in that way, because if you see the western part of the China, Central Asia, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and then moving towards the West Asia, they have a religious connectivity, they have an ethnic connectivity, and they have a cultural connectivity, and they have a common history. So in that context, we are able to do it, but unfortunately, due to the great powers, great game, which you started with the first great game, second great game, and third great game, this region has been kept, you can say, disunited, and all the opportunities which came or which are there for a regional connectivity, they have been thwarted by the great game or because of the great powers, strategic context in Afghanistan or in our neighborhood. So when we look about this regional connectivity, I can repeat it again, that without the regional connectivity, neither South Asia, nor Central Asia, or Eurasia will be having a prosperous future. And at the same time, if you undermine the regional connectivity, with the passage of time, even Europe, which is very much prosper, it will be going to face a lot of, you can say, economic crisis. So regional connectivity is the key in the 21st century for a, you can say, economic prosperity and social mobility and societal security.
Yes, you are right that regional connectivity has become a buzzword, and we have seen many regional organizations not only coming up very fastly but playing a very important role in that connection. We have Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which in last couple of years have not only included India and Pakistan, but last year they have extended towards the Middle East also. So how do you see, and people in the West are talking that Shanghai Cooperation Organization is an answer to European Union. So how do you see Shanghai Cooperation Organization playing a role in regional connectivity as well as trade connectivity between the member countries?
I think that, Khalid, if I'm not wrong, you are confusing with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization with the ECO, Economic Cooperation Organization, which has 10 members, Central Asians, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran, Turkey, which was based on the RCDA. But if you are looking in a broader perspective, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which is aimed for curbing the menace of terrorism, militancy, radicalization in the region, that was basically a security kind of thing. And people started looking at what you are saying, that they used to say with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, it is the Russians and the Americans, they have been trying to build it as an organization to check the NATO's eastward creep. But so far I have seen that Shanghai Cooperation Organization has been too much focusing on the security dimension, but at the same time it is also strengthening the connectivity within the region because as you very rightly pointed out, in the last 2-3 years, Pakistan and India also became a full member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and now in this context, Iran is aspiring, and Saudi Arabia has went for a dialogue partnership or these kind of things. So it is a facilitator. And I look the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, a good organization for a regional security and curbing the menace of terrorism or militancy or radicalization in the region. Yes, if you are looking the regional connectivity with reference to the economic, we had we started in the 60s, regional cooperation RCD, when Iran, Pakistan and Turkey were members, but after the revolution in Iran it was stopped. But recently, there was a 13th meeting of the ECO, I think, in Tashkent, this Economic Cooperation Organization. Our Prime Minister also participated, and earlier it was there. So what was the peace through connectivity or prosperity through connectivity? These are these, you can say, slogans which we hear in the ECO. So naturally, ECO, and if you look the ECO countries, they are the biggest beneficiary of the Chinese BRI, Belt and Road Initiative, because Chinese Central Asian corridor is going into the ECO's Western Central Asian countries, and the Chinese CPEC is passing through Pakistan, which is the main pivotal state in the ECO as well. And now from the Pakistan, when we look towards the West Asia, and also BRI, though it's not a part, but Chinese have a $400 billion investment in the plans to, it's $400 billion strategic partnership with Iran. which will be going to develop the infrastructure or these kind of the things. So definitely when we look at all these three, let's say BRI, ECO, and this Shanghai Cooperation Organization, I think these are the three mega projects or mega organizations or mega initiatives, let me put like this way, which are going to facilitate and strengthen regional connectivity in our region, and which will be going to have a dividends for not only this part of the region, it will be having a dividend for Euro-Asia.
Sir, you have just talked about Belt and Road Initiative, and as we know that in Pakistan, people mostly only know about CPEC, but a lot of general public is not aware about BRI and what are the benefits of BRI overall and how all the corridors are complementing each other. So for our listener, would you throw some light on the BRI corridors and how do they complement each other?
I think that when this in 2013 September, when President Xi announced this BRI project in Astana, it was a Belt and Road Initiative first. No, now they call it at that time One Belt, One Road, and then they are now calling it BRI. So it was very clear that they were saying, or the vision was connecting through the sea, maritime connectivity and the road connectivity. That was the primary objective of this connectivity. So in this context, they have further said that this connectivity is going to have a link up from the port to the port, like from Gwadar to the Ambatotwa and to the other side. And it will be having a road connectivity, railway track connectivity. And in that they talked about, in order to further make it them more viable for a regional sort of thing, they had a Central Asian corridor, which was connecting the China with the Central Asia and to the Russia. That was leading towards the Eastern Europe. There was a CPEC. There was another corridor for connecting with the, coming from up and going to the Chittagong and then with the Bangladesh. There is the South Asia in this context. So there are many corridors. They have 6 corridors they announced, but the one corridor is completely functional. That is the Central Asian. You can say major work has been on the early harvest, which they divided in the context of early harvest projects have been completed with the CPEC, but now due to the COVID, some projects were delayed. But recently they announced that they are opened the this Greater China border, Pakistan, and by this way now international airport of the Gwadar will be, or has been now you can say operated. Gwadar port is already there. So systematically these things will be further strengthening the CPEC. But of course recently in Beijing, if I'm not wrong, 2 weeks back when there was a meeting between the CPEC authorities and the relevant, they agreed opening it up for third-party investment. By third-party investment, it means that they are going to attract the Gulf or Arabian or Persian Gulf countries and linking it with Oman or the other side of the thing and Saudis. So of course, these corridors are very significant, and each corridor has its own significance. But interestingly, when we look about these corridors, historically, it was part of the Silk routes as well. So by this way you can look at, but no, the new thing is North-South Transport Corridor, though India earlier was very interested, but it failed to invest, and now maybe the Chinese will be going to strengthen it from starting from the Arabian Sea and moving up to the Afghanistan and sort of thing. Then of course these corridors will facilitate Pakistan and Uzbekistan, Iran, Afghanistan railway track. So of course I can say that these corridors are very significant, and they are basically what you call it a cardinal part of the BRI initiative.
Since we are talking about the Chinese initiatives and about Belt and Road corridors, sir, I have been reading a lot of your articles on China, and you have been very closely monitoring the progress of China and development of China. So my question now has 2 parts. One, how do you see China economically in next 5 years? And secondly, how do you see Pakistan benefiting out of the Chinese progress? Because we are their island brothers, we are immediate neighbors, we have their flagship projects. That is CPEC. So how do you see Pakistan benefiting from the Chinese development model?
China is a rising economic power, no doubt. As sooner it will be number one economy. Within that, of course, we can say that besides that there are other economies. But if you see the Chinese economy's dynamism is such as that there's a Quad. I just give you an example. Quad was created by the Americans, 4 members, and it was basically on the Australian Prime Minister for non-traditional security challenges. But then Japanese, Americans, and Indians became more, you can say, participant in it. And as a result, it was rebooted in 2017, and now its current shape is something like a security alliance. Now, if you see these 4 states, which are united in this alliance against the China, and Chinese said it is a Asian version of the NATO. Now, in this, what is the interesting point is the volume of trade between China and Australia is higher than the volume of trade between the Australia and India, Australia and United States, or Australia and Japan. Same is with the Japan. So Chinese economy is entirely full of dynamic, and they are moving onward because of their economic, you can say, movements, or because of this BRI initiative, the way they are pursuing, without firing a single bullet. China's footprints are in the more than 120 countries. The major target of the China today is West Asia or MENA, Middle East and North Africa. Now here, if the Chinese are looking about the West Asia, Africa, or this part of the world, from where the China is reaching there, China can only reach the shortest possible economical route is through Pakistan. And that's why China has been investing too much in the China-Pakistan economic corridor. It's good for us, it's good for the Chinese as well, and Pakistanis are sincerely working over it, and that's why the anti-China forces are targeting the Chinese worker on the CPEC, so that this project must be spoiled,
or
otherwise
get delayed.
Otherwise China will be knocking it will be in the Middle East or Persian Gulf. Chinese role has been now acknowledged in a manner, or everyone is saying, and even American writers have been writing, that after the 10th March, China is the key player in the Middle East. On the 10th March, the Saudis and Iranians had a rapprochement with the good officers of the Chinese, and America is out of the Middle Eastern politics. Though it's not out of the Middle Eastern politics, but its stature has been compromised. So by this way, CPEC is one of the important connectivity with the rest of the world, or in the Western world, by the Chinese. Now I come back towards your second part of the question, how Pakistan is benefiting from it. Yes, Pakistan is a beneficiary. If you see CPEC, Pakistan signed immediately CPEC in 2030, but the project started in Pakistan, or materialization processes started in 2015. And from 2015, now it almost, let's say, we have 8 years. In the 8 years, if you see, we have now connectivity from north to the south via D.I. Khan to the Gwadar. We have a Gwadar port.
Yes.
We have a new port, third port. We have many other infrastructure. We have an
airport being made.
We have an energy project like Saiwal Energy Project. We have but that is not part of the BRI. But anyway, so in this context, we find that early harvest projects have been completed. Now here comes the second part. This is very critical and important. Is Pakistan aware of its demands? Yes. But is Pakistan has a vision to solve it? No. Why I'm saying, from 2015, we must know, or we must realize, we are knowing that without development of the 8 economic zones, Pakistan will be the lesser beneficiary of the CPEC, or lesser attractive for the foreign direct investment. But we fail to develop these economic zones. Till the time we are unable to develop these economic zones, my understanding is that we will be unable to attract the Chinese investment and benefit from the good practices of the Chinese, and we are failing to attract the foreign direct investment for the third party. So here, Chinese have nothing to do. Here we have to develop ourselves, we have to mature our law. But unfortunately, the problem is that after the 18th Amendment, these development projects, or all these projects like health, like economic
Education,
or education, they have gone to the provinces.
Yes.
So if you have to develop an economic zone, you have to bring all these projects or all these facilities there. But this BRI is connected with the federation. So that's why we fail to overcome it. And it's not, till the time we are not overcoming these kind of the hurdles or obstacles, I think we are not going to reap the fruits of the CPEC as much the way we are desiring or the way this project is meant for.
You are absolutely right, sir, that we need to first understand our potentials and then we need to work on that. So talking about BRI and extended it forward to ASEAN countries, Pakistan and ASEAN countries have been quite close in the past, especially Indonesia and Malaysia. We import a lot of spices and palm oil from both these countries. So how do you see the future of ASEAN countries as a group? Do you see ASEAN as a regional group growing faster?
Economically, ASEAN is very much growing faster. And since last over 2 decades, ASEAN has reaped it. The infrastructure, tourist industry, the other things, they have been prospering. Technologically, like Malaysia is there. Malaysia had, I think 2018 brought this proton, you can say, automobile industry or facility in Pakistan, and from here they are planning to move to the Central Asia and the West Asia. It means that Malaysia is very much technologically advanced and we can learn a lot from them. Similarly, Malaysia is very much there. Indonesia is there. So ASEAN as a big bloc. And if you see, instead of conflicting with the Chinese, they are welcoming the Chinese investment. And despite having some kind of disputes in the South China Sea, they are putting them aside or at the back burner and they are moving ahead. So I'm looking at great potential, economic potential in the ASEAN. That's the reason the Americans and Indians have moved from look east to act east policy. Americans have changed in order to focus and link this South Asia in this with the ASEAN or rest of with the Asia Pacific strategy has been swapped with the Indo-Pacific strategy of the Americans. So all these things, right? And if you see the Americans rebalancing or pivot Asia or these kind of strategies, they are also focused on the ASEAN or these regions. So of course, ASEAN is economically, politically, and militarily becoming very significant, and economically, of course, it is growing.
So for all those listeners who have just joined us, let me introduce our guest again. We have today Dr. Zafar Nawaz Jaspal, international relation expert and a professor at Quaid-i-Azam University with us. So we'll just take a break and we'll be back, and then we will be talking with Dr. Jaspal about Pakistan's foreign policy and how Pakistan can improve the relationship not only with the regional countries but also around the globe. So stay tuned and stay with us. So we are back again, Dr. Zafar Nawaz Jaspal, who's an eminent international relations scholar. So sir, please tell us that how do you define Pakistan's present geostrategic position, and do you think that the international community look towards Pakistan for some kind of regional problem solving or not?
I think that when we look about Pakistan in its national security document 2022 to 26, Pakistani leadership had consensually came up with this idea that we will be going to give a geoeconomics more priority over the geostrategy. And through our geoeconomic potential, we try to strengthen our national security, both traditional and non-traditional security challenges to the national security. But we have seen that Pakistan started focusing, and which we earlier discussed this with reference to the regional connectivity. Pakistan is too much determined for it. But the situation or the trends in the global politics, such as that our pursuit for geoeconomic paradigm seems very much challenging. 2 days back, I think last Tuesday, 31st country joined the NATO, and that is Finland. And sooner, Sweden will also join the NATO, 32 countries will become a member of the NATO, and two major neutral states gave up there. So this set a trend of the alliances building. Quad is in our neighborhood, AUKUS is there. So in such a situation, naturally, all these things and the documents five documents by the American strategic establishments like Pentagon, DoD, National Security Strategy, Legal Strategy. In all these documents, and especially recently one of the documents came by the National Security Institute, they all gives you the idea that in every document they said China is number one threat and the Russia is number two. Now when they are targeting the China and they wanted to contain the China, I mean by the American-led world, and they constituted the Quad, naturally they transformed the regional situation or our region, which we call it South Asia, or linking China with Southern Asia. They transform, or these kind of developments at the global level hinder the economic developments in the region or geo-economic developments. So when this hinders, of course, as I pointed out earlier, it undermines our geo-economic paradigm or obstruct our geo-economic paradigm pursuits. Having said this, now in our region, what is the biggest trouble? The trouble is terrorism. After 9/11, terrorism was a big problem, but now for the Americans, it's the third level problem. First is China, second is Russia, and then. But when they left Afghanistan, they leave the Afghanistan after 2 decades military operation unsettled. So anarchy in Afghanistan is directly impacting us. Of course, Pakistan is a key player in the Afghanistan or in the Euro or in Central Asia, and it can play a significant role in the national security of the Central Asian or other regional states. Pakistan is a neighboring state of China, but at the same time having the strategic rivalry with India. So Pakistan is a nuclear capable state. So Pakistan's role cannot be ignored in the regional stability or strategic stability, and at the same time sharing the burden of the Afghanistan. We are sharing the Afghanistan's crisis burden. Overwhelming, more than millions, 3 million Afghan refugees are in Pakistan. And in this context, we are trying to sensitize the world about the Afghan problems, but they are not accepting the Taliban government as a de jure government. That's why a lot of challenges are there. So Pakistan is a significant actor in the regional security. Of course, Pakistan desires for peaceful coexistence, but our neighbor is not working for it.
Sir, talking about our neighbor India, we have seen that there are a lot of separatist movement going on in India. Although India claims that they are the biggest democracy, they claim that all the religions and all the ethnic minorities, they have rights over there. But in actual, it is not happening over there. And there are lots of ethnic movements and even religious movements going on in India. So how do you see India's internal situation?
I think that internal situation of India is not very much promising, or the way the Indians have been projecting
Or claiming?
Of course, our internal situation is equally deplorable, but Indian economic growth has also declined. And in this context, when we look about the BJP policies, it is more strengthening Hindutva forces or Hindutva mindset or Hindutva policies in India. So due to that, India is losing its secular face, its constitutional.
I would say it's already lost it.
Yeah, but I can put more demonstration. You see that Indian opposition leader Rahul Gandhi has been tried and thrown out of his parliament membership has been cancelled. So India's democracy is very much facing a big challenge. Within the India, minorities are facing a challenge. When the minorities are marginalized, naturally it strengthens the fifth column within India. And then, very rightly you pointed out, there are many religious or irredentist movements or right of self-determination movements are there. India has, you can say, revoked the famous special status of the illegally Indian occupied Kashmir in August 2009, on 5th August 2019. Since that to date, India has maintained some kind of a curfew sort of situation, but they are failing to establish the writ of the state in the occupied Kashmir. Though I heard that India is now going to host the 23rd or G20, no,
G20.
G20 meeting in Indian occupied Kashmir, that will be also going to question the conscious or the stakeholder, the other G20 members as well. Are they not aware of what are the United Nations Security Council resolutions are on the Kashmir? If they believe that they are an honest member of the United Nations and they're already aware the United Nations has declared the Kashmir as a disputed territory and there's a need for a plebiscite for its solution. If that thing is there, and still if the G20 kind members visit the Kashmir and participate, I think they are deviating from their own commitment to the human rights or these sort of thing. But anyway, coming back, India internally is facing a lot of trouble, and in the next year there will be a general election in India, and I am expecting maybe India can or BJP can raise the flag,
False flag,
and then create a trouble. But one cannot ignore that India can take this can use military misadventure for BJP can, sorry, not India, BJP can use military misadventure for having a more voter support. But of course, these kind of developments or the current leadership in India is very much hawkish, extremist, and that extremist hawkishness is causing a great danger or allowing for it, and that the danger is inevitable in the region.
Sir, talking about India, we have seen that whatever they have been doing in occupied Kashmir in last 2 years, and especially after revoking the special status and Article 370 and 35B. So how do you, and the response of the international community, especially United Nations, was very lukewarm. So how do you see that in times to come, will the international community someday realize what India is doing?
I think that the international organizations, I mean human rights organizations or NGOs, they number of times protested, documented India's brutality in the Indian illegally occupied Kashmir. But the issue is that the great powers or the major powers, they prefer their materialistic, you can say, interest rather than their ideological or humanistic interests. They rhetorically condemn India, but practically they are not ready to boycott India. So the human rights of these things are good for debating or maligning the other states, but they are not maligning India. It's very interesting. I can give you a very interesting example. India recently purchased or received the third squadron of the S-400 missiles from Russia. I think this deal, this transfer of the missiles started in January. But it was on the cars or very much written on the wall in since October. India is doing a big trade with Russia of the oil. And the missiles which I referred, when similar missiles were purchased by Turkey from Russia as 400, United States immediately levied sanctions against the Turkey. There is an act of 2017, Congress Act, by virtue of it, if any party purchases anything, military hardware from Russia, they come automatically under the sanction of China, of India, the United States. India purchased, they make an amendment, and they are not reacting. So India is now, neither Americans nor the Ukrainians nor others protested that India is purchasing oil or what you call it, missile S-400 defense systems from surface-to-air defense system from Russia. So what it is, I'm trying to prove that in the international politics or in a real polity, there is more, or states pursue their interest and they only pursue the rhetorically human rights.
So coming back to the region again, we have recently seen that China playing a major role between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Even the Americans were surprised, and the China has not only played that major role, but also we have seen that Saudi Arabia and Iran, they have come closer to each other. So do you feel that China is playing a stabilizing role in the region, because we have seen China playing a very major role in the post 15th August withdrawal, and we have seen China now talking to France and other countries for finding out some solution with the Russia-Ukraine war. So in last couple of months, China and Chinese leadership, especially President Xi Jinping, has come up as a leader who is making everybody sit together. So how do you see that role of President Xi Jinping?
I think that the President Xi Jinping's vision is very clear. In his speeches, he articulated, elaborated his this Belt and Road Initiative vision, which is the economic vision. When talk about shared destiny, he talks about economic prosperity of the world. He understands that the Chinese economic prosperity is linked with the economic prosperity of the neighboring or beyond the neighborhood states. So that's why he's moving for the investment. Conflict is not, you can say, suitable to his vision, economic vision. He also understands that within the regions, if the conflicts continues, they are not serving his PRI agenda. Of course, for a great powers, regional conflicts are good, the regional actors bad. But here, this great power, China, its vision is very clear, and it's looking for economic prosperity.
Economic dividends for everybody.
For others as well as for itself. And in this context, when you say economic dividends, there's need of political stability, there's need of security stability. And for that, China earlier was not playing, but now it's a need for the Chinese economic prosperity, that it has to play what you call it, it has to play its role in the regional conflict management, entailing to conflict resolution, and finally leading to conflict transformation. So in this context, you very rightly pointed out the Chinese did a good job. The Iranians and Saudis were at the loggerheads since the 2016. They cut their diplomatic relations. Their ambassadors were not present in each other's capitals. And China built it. And the Chinese convinced them, after 4 days serious discussions, on 10th April, Chinese were able to manage or bring both sides on a consensual agreement in which they agreed that yes, we are going for a rapprochement. Within 1 month or two, we exchange our ambassadors. Then the Saudis extended invitations to Chinese head of the state, and he accepted. So with this, China played a very major role. It ended the deadlock, and this will be having you can say, decisive or consequential impact on the entire region, because when the Chinese and Saudis relations will improve, definitely you would find the proxy war era will start ending in the Middle East or in this part. Houthis, now delegation was yesterday or day before yesterday, Saudis and the others delegation visited for a dialogue with the Houthis. There will be peace in the, in Syria. There will be more opportunities for cooperation. So ultimately, it will be also having a positive impact in our neighborhood. That is, you can say in Afghanistan. I think the Chinese role in bridging the gap, or you can say in starting rapprochement between China and between Saudi Arabia and Iran, it will be having a economic, political, diplomatic, and security dividends for the entire region.
Thank you very much, audience. Today we have respected Dr. Zafar Nawaz Jaspal, who's an international expert with us. And sir, as the time is approaching to 5 p.m. and we have a news at 5 p.m. So before we finish off the program, one last thing which I would like to request you, that please if one message you have to give to the youth of Pakistan, especially those pursuing the international relations as a subject, and what message do you give to your students that how to become a good citizen, how to contribute towards their own progress and towards the progress of the country? So, before we, as an end note, what will be your message to the young generation?
I think that the young generation is the future of Pakistan, and they can transform Pakistan from this political or economic fragility to a solid economic power. For that, they need to focus on their education. They need to focus on that how the new inventions. Our youth is very brilliant. They know how to use the technology. A number of them are doing good jobs. But they have to keep in mind that they have to develop and pursue expertise, vocational training. They have to not think that they will become a part of the government bureaucracies. Future is in a private sector. Future is that they can work on and acquire education and build and mature themselves in a manner that they can create the jobs rather than finding the jobs. And they can. So my final word for my youth is that they must focus on their education. They must keep in mind their culture, their religious ethos, but at the same time, modern in education acquisition, cultural in their behavior, and not jumping on the simply or following the Coca-Cola culture. Our own culture is very beautiful and good. So they shall be modern mentally, but modern by modernity, which means following the merit policy rather than the other policy.
Thank you very much, listeners. Today we had the honor to listen to the views of Dr. Zafar Nawaz Jaspal, who's an international relations expert, and currently he is in Quaid-i-Azam University. So if any of you want to get some kind of guidance on international relations, I'm sure that he will be ready to help, as he has always been helping students for a number of years now. So today we have heard his views on many international relations issues, about regional connectivity, about Pakistan relationship with various countries, and about what is happening in India. So I'm sure that this interview will help the international relations students in clearing their perspective. So we will finish off our program over here, and till next week, thank you very much and goodbye.